Good afternoon. How's it going? Excuse me. I am back for day 3. Super excited about today. We're going to be talking about when do you know that you have a core imbalance? Hey. As always, just let me know. Can you hear me? That way I know we're good, or send me a thumbs up. Hey Jody. Hey Jessica. Good to see you guys. I'm going to just see if a few people pop on. But thank you for coming back for day 3 of my pelvic floor dysfunction training. And I'm going to go ahead and just review real quick while people hop on, and feel free to just say hi in the comments, let me know you're here, that you can hear me. So the first day we talked about who usually struggles with pelvic floor dysfunctions and or how does it affect your life. So I talked about people who are not very active. You don't work out very much, but you're definitely tired of your pelvic floor problems. Coughing, sneezing, and peeing yourself. And then there are the people who are moderately active. You are someone who you want to move, you have some goals, but it actually, your pelvic floor problems kind of keeps you from working out more and setting higher goals or reaching goals because you're just tired of having these problems and it hurts, or you can't do jumping jacks, those type of things. So it really discourages you. And then the third person is you're very active, and I explained that's me. I like to work out. I have big fitness goals, aesthetic goals, those kinds of things. But I'm also working to heal my postpartum body, even 5 years later after my youngest was born. So, but you have big goals, and your pelvic floor problems may not be something that really bothers you too much, but it is kind of an annoyance. You're like, I would like to not pee myself, even just a little bit when I'm doing jumping rope and those kinds of things. So that was the first day. Yesterday, what we talked about was why are pelvic floor dysfunctions potentially dangerous? And I talked about how our core functions in a certain way, and our pelvic floor is connected to our core. And we just kind of worked through that. But your pelvic floor is also connected to your hips. And so how, over time, if a muscle is weak or vice versa, the other muscles do not work the way that they're supposed to, and you will most definitely have an injury at some point in your life if you do not address those imbalances. So today, I talked a little bit yesterday about maybe some of the symptoms you might have or things you might notice. And I talked about being aware of where you hold tension in your body. So if you just scan, I've been a little stressed this week, I'm not gonna lie, and I didn't work out the last couple of days, and I can just tell I have gotten some tightness in my upper abs, in my back. When I was doing my cardio workout today, it was a little bit harder because it's harder to catch my breath because I couldn't get as full or as deep of a breath as I could normally because everything's just tight up here, and I've just been a little bit stressed. So anyways, I wanted you to keep in mind where you hold that stress, and I wanted to move into today and talk about what are some of the other symptoms that you might have. So the first thing I want to talk about is pain. Now, we all know that pain is supposed to be the first thing that gives us a clue, oh, something's wrong. So I really want you to think about your own body, and specifically for you postpartum moms, and or if you're pregnant, because some of these pains can also be worked through while you're still pregnant. You can be made aware of how to fix things or how to do things better so that you don't cause as much of an injury when you're pregnant. And so I just want you to think about this as I'm going through these different points today. And so the first thing is pain, and I wanted to specify a little bit. So remember we talked about how the core is connected. So you could have lower back, mid back, upper back pain, shoulder, neck pain. specifically for the pelvic floor, maybe you have pain with sex. It's still uncomfortable for you. It's not pleasurable for you. That's a sign. The other thing that could be a sign is, a little bit of pain during our menstrual cycles is normal, but if you really start to feel like some heaviness and some major pain during your menstrual period, that could also be a sign that there's something wrong with your pelvic floor. Something's not working the way that it should be. So that's the first thing. That kind of brings me into my second thing, which what I was just talking about was feeling the heaviness in your pelvic floor. This may not necessarily be during your menstrual cycle. Again, it could be during your menstrual cycle. But if it's something you always have, and I talked a little bit about this yesterday, something called prolapse is where our organs that our pelvic floor is supposed to help hold up start to come through into the vaginal wall, that type of thing. So bladder, uterus, your actual vaginal canal can also collapse. So, if you start to have some pain with some of these things, and then you start to feel heaviness down there, that is another sign. So take note of that, because again, you may have some issues going on. I did want to also mention that men can also have these issues with prolapse. If you think about the pelvic floor, there are more than one way to fall, and so it could be front or it could be the back. And you can also have imbalances in your pelvic floor where the back is too tight and the front is too weak, or vice versa. So keep that in mind. So those are the first two things. The third thing I wanted to talk about, this might apply more to you ladies who are moderately active or very active. And so this is something I want you to pay attention to when you are doing your exercises. And one of these things is, if you're someone who likes to lift heavy, you have heavy weightlifting goals. If you see that you're having a strength plateau, you're just not able to get past a certain point of lifting. Like you have lower back pain, something pulls where every time you try to go up in weight, you're just not able to without injuring yourself. That could probably be a potential problem with a core imbalance or pelvic floor problem. Remember, these things are connected. The other thing, I posted a picture of myself, I think it was last week, where I talked about one of my own issues I have with pull-ups. I have a goal to get a pull-up. I still have not gotten my first pull-up, and I haven't ever really had this goal. And so I started working on it last year, and I kept pulling ribs out. My lower back was giving me problems, and I just could not get it. Like, I can do it with a band where it gives me some assistance and I can get started there, but I still have not gotten to the point where I can do a full pull-up with my own body weight. And one of the things that I noticed after I started working on my core was that my diastasis, where there's a separation in my abdominals, it bulges. And that's a sign. So if you have, abdominal abdominal exercises that you're doing, or you're trying to do stuff overhead, and you notice that your abs are bulging, that's a very good sign that you may have a core imbalance, and that needs to be addressed because it will cause an injury later on. So that's the third thing. Within this third thing, I also wanted to talk about, so I guess it would technically be 3 or 4 different things, is if you notice you have a little belly pooch. We all seem to have this little mama belly pooch that just never goes away. Now, I will say sometimes it is just skin, and that's just going to be there, and we love ourselves because we love our kids, and we wouldn't trade them for anything. But if you notice that you excessively bulge, and again, for me, I tend to push down on my pelvic floor because my lower abdominals are too weak and my upper abdominals are too tight. And so I'm not able to get a full breath with my ribs and my diaphragm. And so I tend to push down on my pelvic floor instead of lifting up with my pelvic floor to tighten it. And so if you notice that, you'll tend to have this little pooch at the bottom that you just cannot get rid of. And so that is also a sign that there's a core imbalance going on. It could be pelvic floor, it could be, upper or lower abs, it could even be a back problem. So if you think about our core imbalances, the way that everything's interconnected, someone who maybe has a shoulder injury and a hip injury, our body works cross body, and so you may have an imbalance cross body. And so then you have the other side that is weak. Maybe this side's too tight, and then you have this side that's too weak. So those are some of the symptoms that you can be looking for. Hey Brooke, I see that you're here. Make sure you let me know if you guys have any questions, or if there are any other symptoms that you've noticed that I didn't mention. Just be like, what about this? Do you think this would be related? Because it can be all sorts of different things, and I'm not necessarily saying that this is always related to postpartum, but postpartum women tend to have a lot of these symptoms and issues after birth. So just to recap, remember some of the other symptoms that we talked about is pain, any type of pain, pelvic floor pain, neck, lower back, mid-back, upper back, shoulders, neck. If you have tension or tightness or pain there, take note. Also, pain during sex, pain during your period. Hip pain is another one. I don't know if I mentioned that, but hip pain. There's a lot of hip issues we have as women. And remember, our pelvic floor is connected to our hip flexors and are essentially our hip flexors. And so you can have hip pain and you can have hip problems, and some people have to end up having hip replacements very young because they have some sort of pelvic floor imbalance. So pain. And then again, feeling heaviness in your pelvic floor. Feel like something's about to fall out. You're just not sure what's going on in there. And then for those of you who are moderately active or very active, you have strength plateaus. You bulge or dome in your diastasis. And also, one of the other symptoms I talked about was if you have that little belly pooch that just doesn't seem to go away. Those are some signs that you may have a core imbalance. Most likely you have a core imbalance and or a pelvic floor problem. All right, so in the comments, let me know if you have ever experienced any symptoms and or any other different symptoms. And come back tomorrow where we are going to talk about what are some of the misconceptions that people have tried in fixing these things. So that's what we will be talking about tomorrow. So make sure that you share this video, like this video, let me know what you think, and I will see you guys tomorrow.